Hi friends! Today we are featuring the Wayne Goss Edit Collection, but first, if it's your first time here, hi, I'm Alicia, thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I am a fitness professional who loves things, all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. I know they're so dirty, because I've been using them. A huge thank you to Beautylish and Wayne Goss for sending these over. I was delighted to receive that Beautylish order confirmation email. Love getting those. And was equally excited to learn that Wayne Goss was releasing another brush collection. And of course, Wayne Goss brushes hold a special place in my heart because that was my first Fude purchase where I experienced brushes made in Japan for the very first time. And it was all downhill from there. Pretty much. Now last year, or was it the year before? I can't quite recall. Wayne Goss released his artist collection, which at the time I considered his best designs yet. I use these nonstop. I just love the design, the wooden handles, the fact that they just have an old age quality about them that speaks volumes of the legacy that is Japanese brush making from Kumano, Japan. And I was excited to see that the Goss Edit Collection very much pulled from that inspiration seen in the artist collection in terms of how the handles are designed as well as how the brushes are designed. We're taking a look at prices and I have B-roll. So if you want to skip over to any portion, I'll have the timestamps down below alongside the chapters here on the time bar. The whole collection does retail for $225. As of now, these are only sold as a set, just like when the artist collection released, but eventually they did release singles, so who knows, maybe that's in the blueprint. It says here on Beautylish, master the art of makeup with an expertly crafted collection of brushes from makeup artist Wayne Goss. Nearly a decade after the launch of his first ever brush set, which I eventually purchased but not 10 years ago, my gosh. Wayne has reimagined his core brushes with thoughtful updates tailored to your needs. We're looking at a total of 7 brushes, and the artist collection was a mixture of Gray Squirrel and Psycho Ho Goat. These all, I believe, are Psycho Ho Goat undyed maple wood handles, but brush number 7, let me see if I can find it. Brush number 7 is a mixture of Psycho Ho Goat and PBT, which I really like because I use this to blend out liner, and I think very much an appropriate blend for that medium. Each brush is carefully handcrafted by master artisans in Kumano, Japan's brush making capital. Whispered, soft, natural hair bristles glide over the face without irritating sensitive skin or disturbing makeup underneath, which is primarily why I use natural hair brushes, and not just any natural hair brushes. I find the ones made in Japan are just the caliber of the craftsmanship is unmatched, and depending on the hair type, the bristle type will determine what task it is best used with that brush. And with Psycho Ho Go, I believe I consider a workhorse bristle in that, especially when it's undyed, you can use these with liquid, with powder, and I like that he went with the undyed Psycho Ho Goat because I do like to use natural hair brushes with cream products at times, and I was fine not using cream products with these brushes, but now I feel that the possibility has widened in terms of like the different types of makeup I could use now with these brushes. Let's start off with brush number 1, the ultimate face brush designed to apply setting powder, bronzer, blush, and highlighter exactly where you want it with no harsh edges. Psycho Ho Goat. Brush number 1, I applied Pat McGrath's light medium loose powder all over the face, and I will show the brush that I use to apply my foundation with. It's number 2, but we'll get there in a minute. I also use the number 1 to apply Wayne Goss's bronzer, the bronzer side of course, and I really enjoy just how the tapered shape of the brush I feel just yields that intentional use of a powder brush when it comes to bronzer. Because of the tapered edge, it fits beautifully into the hollows of the cheeks, and also because of that tapered edge, I feel ideal for blush. And although it's fluffy and soft, it's not too dense, so it has really nice silky flow on the skin, whether you want to go up and down or go in circular motions for your blend. It does not disturb the makeup underneath. Even though I powdered first, I doubt that it would disturb my whatever I choose to apply. Like today, for instance, I use the number 2, which we'll get to in a minute, to apply Danessa's Balm contour, and then I used the number 1 to apply blush on top, and the contour did not move and I did not set it. So because it's so silky soft, it's not going to move the makeup but apply it perfectly and leave behind that blurred airbrush finish. I particularly love the number 1 to apply loose powder, and although I didn't try it yet, I think it fine with my Dior Backstage powder as well. It picks up, I think, a good amount. It's very lightweight in the pickup, but again, because how it's not totally domed, it comes to a point, and this shape is just so versatile in terms of where you could use it on your face. Again, bronzer, blush, all over loose powder, and still fluffy enough if you choose to use this brush for your buffing. When everything has been applied, you could use a finishing powder to just whip everything around, and it's all gonna look flawless. Next up, brush number 2. The rounded shape makes buffing cream, liquid, or powder foundations to a seamless second skin finish easier than ever before. This brush is also made with Psycho goat hair, and man oh man, I was not ready for how much I would love this brush for foundation application. I used it to apply Pat McGrath's Skin Fetish Sublime Perfecting, the name is so long, I know, her foundation in M16, and I mixed it with the Auric Glow in Citrine. And I find this brush, because it's not as dense as, let's say, my Hokuto brush. This is the BZ1. You can see just from off the bat how much the Hokuto brush has in comparison to the Wayne, and I love that. Also, a super packed kabuki brush is going to lay down a little more product, so it will sit near the fuller coverage end of the spectrum, but the wispiness of Wayne's number 2, I think perfect for the makeup wearer who loves foundation but just wants like a really lightweight amount so they can control the level of coverage and that the end result will not look overly made up or just like your skin is suffocating with makeup. And the way the brush whips the foundation around, very soft on the skin, the dome shape yields that experience. It's just silky on the skin where you take your foundation around, and I particularly love to apply my foundation in this fashion because I feel it yields the best blend. It just buffs the product beautifully into the skin. It leaves behind a seamless finish, and because it's not super packed, it's actually going to take away some product. So if you feel you need less product, go between your blends and wipe your brush on a microfiber towel to get some product out and then continue blending it on your skin. I also use the number 2 to apply Danessa's Contour Balm in medium 2. I really like the density of this brush to get a really lightweight dose of contour. So if you're not looking to overload the skin with this product, this is a perfect brush, and I feel a really nice size for several face sizes and shapes to get it into the hollows of the cheeks and concentrate the product where it needs to go, and it doesn't get away from you in that way, but it's going to diffuse the product perfectly. I also use this to apply the KVD Good Apple foundation in 054 under the eyes. I think it's just a nice quick way to get something under the eyes. Yes, it's not a small brush to apply concealer under the eyes if you like to use a sponge or you like to use a smaller brush, but if I was in a pinch and I didn't have another brush except this one, I could get it done. I wanted to see how it would do with bronzer and blush, so I also used the number 2 to apply Wayne's contour shade from the medium in his bronze contour duo, and I love the finish of this. Even though I went from a liquid to a powder, if you wipe your brush in between those applications, you will be successful in either. It's not going to disrupt the blend. It's not going to look muddy. Now, it would if you don't clean your brush in between, so that is crucial. Make sure you wipe before you go into a powder product if you had previously used this brush with a cream or liquid one. And I found the powder blended seamlessly. It did not look muddy. It did not look overly gray, and the placement was perfect. The dome shape and the size of the brush just fits really nicely into the hollows of the cheeks. I also went into his blush and highlighter duo. I like the dome shape for blush. It's really nice. It kind of lends that circular motion if you want to punch it on. I prefer the number 1 for blush because I just like how it feels on my cheeks better, but you can definitely still use this for blush. And I had to go into Pat's Divine Blush, this time in Paradise Venus, and because it's that beautiful terracotta shade, I applied it a little higher on the cheekbones, and man, just the number 2 just buffed this beautifully into the skin, because I had said before that I think a squirrel bristle brush is a little too soft for Pat's more vibrant shades in her Divine Blush collection, but Psycho Ho Goat is a workhorse bristle, and this just blended it beautifully in that nothing got left behind. It looks seamless, it looks smooth and silky on the skin. So this is like, as Wayne said in his video, which I will link down below, this is your workhorse brush. It's going to cover all your tasks, whether it's foundation, loose powder, pressed powder. I didn't use it for powder foundation, but I can only imagine how perfect it will be. Because it's smaller, it's going to pick up a little more product than a bigger brush would and buff it beautifully into the skin and leave behind really nice coverage. Bronzer as you saw, contour as you saw, whether it be powder or cream. I'm sure even with cream blush in the demo, I used it with a powder blush, with 2 powder blushes, but ooh, this with the LYS, or even the Tower 28, or even with the Lisa Eldridge that I had just ordered. I paid the extra $20, okay, because I wanted new. But again, as you saw, and as I had just described, number 2 can do it all. Next up, we have the number 3. With its softly pointed tip, Brush 03 gives you the precision you need to highlight, contour, and apply powder along the curves of the face. Now, I will do comparisons at the end of this brush spotlight so you can see the comparisons between the Edit Collection and the Artist Collection. But the number 3, despite its smaller size, quite versatile, and with this brush I used it to apply the Wayne Goss highlighter from his blush highlighter duo, and I also used this to apply a little bit of Pat's Divine Glow highlighter in Golden Nectar. I also think this an ideal brush for buffing because it's smaller and it's very airlight soft and not so tightly packed. It's just beautifully airy for a nice buff. Dare I say, I rather use the number 3 for buffing and finishing versus the number 1, although you can most certainly use the number 1 for that task. I think because it's just so much more airlight, it's not going to move the product. Number 1 won't either, but because it's a bigger brush, it might have a higher risk of doing so. But the smaller, lighter brush, it's just so wispy on the skin, and I think a fantastic way to finish your makeup. If you have a lot of blush and bronzer and highlighter on, you just zhuzh those products together, and again, the skin just looks blurred and airbrushed. It's gorgeous, and it's so soft, really soft for Psycho Ho Goat. You know, I think for Psycho Ho Goat, it's best that you wash it once a month, and in between uses you wipe it on your microfiber towel. I think that's the best way to maintain softness, and of course not using soaps that are super harsh on the bristle. So I use the Beauty Blender soap. I also use the Hakuhodo soap that I gotta get another one of those, because that way the brush will remain super soft. And again, you could use it for several tasks. I love it for buffing, but you could also use this to get a little more precise with your contouring as well as your highlighting and even blush. So if I were to quickly go into one of Pat's blushes, because yeah, I'm going in with Nymphette. If I just wanted like a light dusting of blush here, you could place the blush right on the side of the brush, and it's smaller than the number 1, but if you don't want all that color on the cheeks, or maybe you do but you want to build it up, you know, with your preference in mind, it's perfect for that task. Highlighter, I absolutely love it for highlighter. I applied the Divine Rose highlighter with this brush. Ooh, and although with the gelée texture, the Psycho Ho Goat picks it up pretty well. And it's like just big enough to get a slightly larger dosing of highlighter, but still not big enough for it to get out of hand, to get carried away with that application. But I absolutely love it for that purpose. The size is just, ideal. If you want it, you could do this as like a finisher for the top edges of your shadow if you wanted to go there. But the number three I feel like is an underdog brush, because you see it and you're like, what can you possibly use this for? You can use it. You can use it for a lot of things, friend. Even bronzer too. Like, don't sleep on the number 3, okay? Next up, we have our new number 4 2.0. Reach for this versatile brush whenever you want to set concealer, highlight hard to reach areas, or blend eyeshadow. The possibilities are endless. I was not ready for how flabbergasted I was with eyeshadow, but I'll get there in a second. This is indeed perfect for under eye setting. If I think we had left that baking under the eyes trend that just dominated social media for a very long time, and I think we all realize that that technique is not for everybody, okay? If you have particularly dry skin under the eyes but you don't want to overload that area with powder, a smaller brush will ensure that you apply the right amount for what you're looking to achieve with setting, and it's not going to overwhelm the skin. This is beautiful for under eye setting, and even if I wanted to take my Pat McGrath skin blurring under eye powder, this is in yellow, you could just whip it lightly here and it's going to deposit the right amount. It's not going to look heavy under the eyes. It's beautifully soft. And you could also, if you want to, take Wayne's contour or bronzer palette and place some here on the side of your nose. The pointed tip just makes it easy to feel that on your skin. But in my actual demo, I used the number 4 with this Imperial Topaz eyeshadow palette, and I applied the brown shadow, the matte one, in my crease. And I was unsure. I'm like, ooh, I know I have a lot of eye space, so I could get away with this brush with that task, but man, did it feel beautifully soft, and it was just so seamless to use. And I think the number 4 is gonna be my go-to brush for the one and done shadow moments. Like, I'm gonna use the heck out of this with my Suku palettes, with one of the signature color quads, one of those shades just all over the eye, washed out, and just beautifully seamless. And it's so easy and intuitive to use because you have the point here that goes into the crease, and the rest of the bristles then blend out the edges, and it just looks beautifully soft and diffused. Now, because it's fluffy, it's not going to be ideal for packing. And perhaps one of the cons about this collection is that Wayne is not into packer brushes. I think he added a packer brush in his second anniversary collection, or his anniversary 2 collection, because his first one, they were all tapered brushes, right? All tapered brushes. That's just how he rolls. He loves the tapered design. I think he just feels it versatile and definitely a lot easier for someone with smaller hooded eyes to use. But when it comes to applying shadow on your lid, I would think you would just use your fingertip anyway, right? So if you don't mind going back in the shadow and placing more on your fingertip and applying that shade on your lid to get a little more impact, then, you know, that's fine. Maybe you're okay with not having a packer brush in this collection. Also use this brush to pinpoint some highlight. As I was saying in Pat's video, where Golden Nectar is like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. If you needed a smaller brush, just to get like a little more on the cheekbones, but not to overwhelm the cheekbones, then this is the perfect size for that task. You just get it right there, right, and you're done. You're done. You don't need a bigger brush. I love the number 3 for a little more wash of highlighter, like we did with the Divine Rose highlighter, but with the Golden Nectar one, the Divine Glow, you could strike it along the brow bone as well. Woo! And even if I were to go into voyeuristic fiction, I could go in with After Dusk with the number 4, and it just gets it on the crease quick. Now again, I understand I have a lot of eye space, so this brush is appropriate for me to use in the crease. But when we get into the number 5, I think that'll be a great brush to use for your crease. But I could even take color on the side of the brush and strike it along the lid to get that wash of color on the lid. So it's still doable. You know what I mean? Look at that. Done. So that brings us to the number 5. Design with all eye shapes in mind. The silky soft bristles deposit and diffuse eyeshadow along the crease in just a few swipes. Now I know I just used the number 4 for the crease, but I also used the number 5 in my demo to apply Wayne's black shadow, and the tapered shape made it supremely easy to place it on the outer portion of my lid to softly diffuse that black shadow. I also used it to apply a little more brown shadow to intensify the color on my lid. And I use this brush to place the red shimmer all over my lid just to get a little more color on there. And if I were to go back in with After Dusk, this is a smaller brush and I think maybe more appropriate for your crease if you have smaller eyes. You definitely get a little more control, whereas the number 4 is going to fluff out the shadow a lot faster. And I find because since the number 5 is still pointed, it still has that point in the design, you can still get that really nice diffusement of color. If you wanted, you could place a little more on the outer part of your lid. And I'm going to take, is it bronze? Twilight bronze on the side of the number 5, and you can definitely get shadow on your lid with this brush. This is going to be ideal, you know, if you want. I could just go with my finger and get a little more color on the lid, and because it is fluffy, you might get some fallout simply because the brush is not going to be an ideal tool for packing on color. But listen, just do your eyes first, okay? I think it a little big for under eye. Now maybe just right if you want your under eyes to look hazy. If I go in with the number 5 under the eyes, then definitely the shadow is going to drop down a lot more than if we use Z number 6. Achieve perfectly blended shadow in seconds with brush number 6's delicate shape, which softens shadow without patchiness or muddiness. And with number 6, I used this to apply a little more color on the lid, but primarily I used it to apply highlighter on the inner corner, which I thought really successful in this task. And if you like, just how we were just talking about, definitely number 6 is more ideal for the lower lash line if you want a little more control with that placement. And you could also use it to pack on more shadow on the outer V if you like. If you wanted to get a little more precise on the inner part of your eye, if you have a smoky shade there and you wanted to whip it in and around under the inner part of your brow, I'm telling you, if I were to go in Moonlight Liaison, I then use the number 6 to place that highlight shade on the inner corner. And, you know, it could still be considered a little big for your inner corner, but I think it perfect because I like a washed out dose of highlight. And because the point is so perfectly small, it's really nice to get that precision highlighter on the inner corner. But I also think ideal if you do have smaller eyes, you could get a really nice tight blend in the crease right here. Super silky smooth, does not move the skin, and I think that's ideal when blending because when the shadow starts to skip, it then starts to layer weird, it gets muddy, it doesn't look diffused, it doesn't look smooth. But when the brush is soft and you're able to layer successfully without muddying the colors, without them looking heavy on your lids, you just get a beautiful shadow look. And that could be achievable not with 10 shadows, but with 1, right? That's why I was saying, you know, these are going to be crazy good with the Suku signature color quads. You can even use the number 6 for more precision contouring along the sides of your nose. This is great for the brow bone. Are you kidding me? It's so small that if you love to place your highlighter on your brow bone, you use the pointed edge just to get it there. And it's woo, this is really nice for brow bone highlight. I always forget to do this part when it comes to my eyeshadow, but maybe now this brush I'll remember. Really nice for the Cupid's bow. There you go. And now we're at the last brush, the number 7. A super soft detail brush for effortlessly defining your eyes. The slim shape fits perfectly into the crease or any other tricky areas. This is the one that's made with PBT and Psycho goat hair, but I love that combination because I think it's perfect for blending out liner. And I think here, where's the liner? If I were to go in with Pat Black Coffee, which is just, I mean, a freaking staple, I could first place it along the lash line here. Okay. I'll quickly follow up with the number 7. And it is incredibly easy to use. I mean, it glides along the lash line perfectly easy. And I feel it's big enough to work quick, but not big enough to get out of hand with the blend. So you have a little more definition there on the top lash line. And you could also do this. I actually did this in a demo using Wayne's black shadow on top of the red shimmer side. This was incredibly easy to use on my lash line. I thought it was actually going to get a little out of hand because it's not like a flat brush where I could use to get a little more precise with shadow application on my lid. But man, I thought it blended out really nicely just to get that diffused wing look without spending an eternity on it, because I know sometimes that happens. I'm actually gonna, let me put in a little more. I just get a kick out of doing this. It's like, oh, that was the wrong spot, Alicia. I think when you have the right brush, it makes it so incredibly easy. And again, really soft on the skin. And of course, the size will make it perfect to use with inner corner highlight. If you want more of a precise application, then this is definitely going to give you that more so than the number 6. The number 6 clearly bigger, but with the 7, it fits just tighter into the inner corner and you can get a more precise application of color. You could also, if you wanted any specialized shades, you could use the number 7 just to do a little scatter. I would always use Pat special shades with my fingers anyway, because the warmth from your fingers, I feel, is going to lend better stick and adherence. But you know, if you're not into that and you wanted to use a smaller brush, it's not going to pick up as much product, and therefore you're not going to have huge casualties with that. But man, that's pretty. All right, slapped on some mascara. Look is complete. Now quickly going into the comparisons, the number 1 from the new Goss Edit Collection matches up with the Artist Large brush from the Artist Collection. Now here they are side by side. The large Artist brush is made of gray squirrel and dyed Psycho goat hair. So this is a mixture where the number 1 in the Edit Collection is all Psycho goat. I think just based off looking at them, I feel there's a little bit of more of a dome happening in the large Artist brush, where there's a little more of a defined point in the edit. Maybe that's just how the bristles are bundled. Because they're each bundled, there could be nuance differences between the shapes, but I do think that the number 1 is very much influenced by how the Artist Large is designed. And the Artist Large, because it has a little bit of gray squirrel, is a touch softer than the all-exclusive Psycho goat hair blend. Now, if you have more sensitive skin, then maybe the Artist Large will be better for you because it is softer. I love this brush for all the tasks that I outlined for the 01, loose powder, pressed powder, brush, highlighter, bronzer, okay? Everything, even buffing, dare I say. If I had to pick, listen, I love the 01, but the Artist Large is just, it's so super soft. And I think the design has a little more character than the black handle. The black handle is beautiful, but when I see this brush, it's like, ooh, where did that come from? And now we have the number 3 up against the medium Artist brush, and the medium Artist brush is all gray squirrel, where the number 3 is Psycho goat. And because of that, the Gray Squirrel is a lot softer than Psycho Ho Goat. Now, if again you have sensitive skin and Gray Squirrel just feels better on your skin, this brush is just, my goodness me. I love it for highlighting here, especially with a formula like Pat's Divine Glow where it's very impactful. This won't pick up a whole lot, but this will pick up a lot more because of the Psycho Ho Goat blend. And for the same reasons, trying to swirl with my left hand. For the same reasons, I love this for buffing, but because it is softer, it will have lesser of a risk of disturbing your product. Psycho Ho Goat still won't, but depending on the situation, what you use, how much pressure you apply, you definitely will not disturb with the squirrel. Look how it moves versus the Psycho Ho Goat. There's just a little more of a silky swirl with the Gray Squirrel blend. And again, that's your preference. I love the design of the artist brush. Oh, it's just so beautifully soft. And for under the eyes too, like silk. And lastly, we have the 04 number 4 next to the artist small. Now the number 4 is a little bigger than the artist small. You could even see here from the top. And once more, the artist small is all Gray Squirrel. The edit number 4 is Psycho Ho Goat. Incredibly soft. Softer than Psycho Ho Goat, of course. But I wouldn't use this on my eyes like I would the Psycho Ho Goat. This is a little more aggressive, and that's what I want when it comes to blending my shadow in the crease. But the small artist, I think, more ideal for under eye setting, especially have sensitive under eyes and you just need a light dosing of powder there. Beautifully perfect for the pinpoint highlight on the very center of your cheekbone. If you want a wispy dose of color on the sides of your nose for the bronzing effect. If you're finished with your shadow, you could use the artist small just to whip the edges lightly of your shadow there on the crease to get a really nice diffuse buffing of the edges. Whereas the number 4 is going to whip the shadow around a little bit more. So you kind of have to decide what blend you want, what experience you want from your makeup. But those are the standout comparisons, as there are only 3 brushes in the artist collection and there are now 7 in the edit. If you have either and you're really simple with your makeup and maybe you don't wear eyeshadow, then I would go with the artist collection, simply because, you know, if you're fine with the foundation brushes that you have, or maybe you don't even wear foundation, maybe use sponges with your complexion step and you just need a soft brush for your powder products, then you have the large artist brush, you have the medium one for under eye, even bronzer, combining 2 words, the bronzer, contour, highlighter brush, finishing, and you're done. You could even use the small brush, although not my favorite for shadow because I like to pack it on. Definitely you can use this brush to apply shadow on your crease and even the lower lash line. And I think that soft wash of color appropriate for a lot of makeup wearers who just want a little bit of shadow, just like a nice dose of it, and they don't want to go haywire like I do sometimes, and I get it. And with that said, then the artist collection will be good. Now, how much is the freaking artist collection compared? It's $175 compared to $225, and it's more expensive because Gray Squirrel, I believe, is more expensive than Psycho Ho Goat. So you have to break down what your makeup routine is, what skin condition you have, and how your skin is going to react to Psycho Ho Goat versus Gray Squirrel. And maybe you don't need either set, right? Maybe you want to wait until Wayne releases individual brushes from his edit collection. Perhaps that might happen, and then you don't have to get the whole thing and just use 2 brushes. You could just get the brush that you want. All in all, I am very happy with the edit collection. I used them all successfully, and a huge thank you again to Beautylish and Wayne Goss for being so generous in sending this collection. I will see you in the comments, fam, and until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you in here again with another review, tutorial, brush extravaganza, monthly favorite, or lunchtime chit chat. Take care, and I will see you again soon.